podcast for the future filmmaker 3940 reviews where I talk movies, TV, and music, and welcome to the review series of the Matrix films. That's right, we are going to be reviewing each of the movies from this franchise, including Matrix from 1999, the two sequels, Matrix Reloaded, Matrix Revolutions, of course, the little anime spin-off, the Animatrix, all leading up to The Matrix Resurrections in theaters and HBO Max December 22nd. And then we will do a review of that and a ranking of the franchise from there. Now, this is not a review of either one of the movies, so this is going to be a little bit of a pre-build-up before that. So, we're going to talk about my history with the Matrix series, and this is going to be very interesting for you guys to see and hear because I do want to tell a little bit when these movies were coming out. Of course, I was just a little kid, little baby. Of course, the first one was 1999, and for the time, no one expected how big of a hit and how revolutionary and how culturally impactful it would be. And with its ideas, with the way it changed action scenes, and how other movies before this would try to rip off the success of this and would try culturally to do it. And none of them could measure up to what Matrix done. At the time, of course, you had bullet time done back in one scene of Blade, but it wasn't really until The Matrix came out and then showed everyone how cool and how inventive and how something creative with so much depth and philosophical elements and technological elements and culturally that this movie would become. Even when the Wachowskis, they were first making the movie, the first Matrix, they didn't know if it was going to be successful enough or people would buy into it. But luckily, a lot of people did buy into it because it spawned a big franchise. You had games, online games, like the Matrix Online, you had the Matrix Path of Neo, you had Into the Matrix, and then you had comic books, of course, and then merchandise, and then everyone was dressing up with costumes and stuff, and then also you had the Animatrix, which is a series of anime short films, and then move on to 2003 with all that, with the Animatrix stuff. We also had the two sequels, Matrix Reloaded in the summer of 2003 and Matrix Revolutions back in the winter of 2003, and they were both shot as one movie and filmed as one movie and written as a two-part series. And when these sequels came out, many people were very disappointed with them, even going as far as putting them on the worst sequels of all time, and also some of the worst films ever. Some people to this day still hate the sequels, but comparing them to the Star Wars prequels, where they had nothing going for it. But there has been an amount of people who has garnered appreciation and fandom for the Matrix Reloaded and Matrix Revolutions. So, where does that tie into me? Of course, I was too young to see the sequels. Of course, I didn't even know about them. You keep hearing them referenced in other movies and TV shows and games like The Simpsons and Futurama, and even in the Family Guy, and also many other things. Movies would parody, copy, take notes from it, especially with the wire work in stuff like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and the two Charlie's Angels movies from the 2000s. The Black Letter will definitely be seen a lot more in movies, and it definitely will be seen a lot more in movies in a decade. So, where does that lead me into my history? So, let's start off with my little experience when it comes to the Matrix films. The first Matrix I saw back when it came out in on AMC. I didn't see it right away in 1999. Of course, again, I was too young, but when they were showing TV airings of the movie, the first Matrix movie. When I first saw it, I was a little confused at what was going on and what was I watching. Of course, at the time, I was just a youngster wanting to see people in guns shooting each other, and the whole fist fighting scenario of the side of Matrix. And then I first watched it on AMC. There were a lot of moments in that movie that the first film will freak me out. Of course, you have the infamous moment with the agents interrogating Neo, and you have the bug coming out. And then you have the moment with Neo being born in the real world where he's all emancipated. And I thought that those moments were the two moments that freaked me out. But as I kept watching the movie on rewatch, especially when I had the 4 disc only of each of the movies, and then in 2013, such when I bought the individual DVDs of Reloaded and Revolutions and the first Matrix, I kept watching, I kept going back to seeing what is the Matrix. We all have the question, and I appreciate more the philosophical elements and a lot of the more interesting elements like what is real, what is not, how machines are responsible for mankind's battle. I found that to be a very interesting idea, and of course, therefore, I very much loved the first movie. It was definitely one of my favorite films of all time. It's definitely one of the greatest action movies ever made. During a few months back, it was on HBO where I discovered Reloaded, this first sequel, and I remember being blown away with the action scenes and just really liking a lot more what they were trying to do with the story. Now, of course, when I was younger, I thought the second movie had the best story, but over time, since I've grown, I will say the story is not better than the first movie, but the first film definitely has the best story. But one thing I did take away from Reloaded, especially watching it on HBO twice in one day, was the action scenes. The scene with Neo fighting the Smiths and the whole freeway chase and the shots of Neo flying like Superman, I was like, yes, that was cool. You're a kid and you're supposed to like stuff like this is awesome, this is cool. And definitely when you get into the end of the film, when they end on a cliffhanger, I was pretty much like, really? What's gonna happen next? And then they show a little trailer back then for Revolutions during the end credits of Reloaded, which I always remember watching, especially on the DVDs, copies I've owned of this movie. But then when we got to Matrix Revolutions on BET, because BET used to show Reloaded and Revolutions on their network, even on Ion Television. It was the one movie in the series where I did enjoy myself with Revolutions as a finale, but there were a lot of things in the movie I was confused about, and there were some things in the movie that I wasn't really a fan of, mainly involving one of your main characters, which is not played by Keanu Reeves, but we'll get to that when I review Revolutions. But over time, with each subsequent viewing of Revolutions, I came to appreciate it for what it was trying to do, and why I think the Wachowskis were really trying to be ambitious. At the time, they were brothers, but now they're sisters. Yeah, it's a long story. I'm not going to go into that. With the first film, they had an idea and they made it happen. No one said it would work, but it all blew everyone in their right minds away. And then when the sequels came out, a lot of people and some critics and some audiences weren't too fond of them. But some people, like the late Roger Ebert, was actually a fan of Reloaded Revolutions as well as the first movie. There was a lot more things. What the Wachowskis were trying to do with Reloaded and Revolutions was take the concept of good versus evil. Instead, this time it's man versus machine, and have it go against his head and be more ambitious, be more creative, be more different with it. And a lot more people didn't like that. They just wanted the typical good versus evil thing. Which it will be interesting to see how the sequels would be more respected if they was a typical good versus evil cliche. But at the same time, the Wachowskis, they took a risk with each film. And for some people, it didn't pay off because most people nowadays look at The Matrix as a flawed trilogy or a bad trilogy. But when you get to each of these movies and when you watch them many times and pay attention to a lot of things in each film, like the first movie and the second movie, like with some things like the Oracle saying that we can't win victory until we all come together as one. And when you look at the problems, then we can fix things. Those things start to stick out a lot to you a lot more, and they start to stick out a lot to me more with each individual viewing. Because I've watched all three movies at least a lot many times, and every time I watch them, I start to pick up on something different. And especially, the only way to get there is together, which is what the Oracle said to Neo in Reloaded about the future, which tells you where things are going to go with the third movie. And I will explain my defenses and display my criticisms of Reloaded and Revolutions once I get to it. But the first movie is based, in the words of Laurence Fishburne, one of the documentaries, he said the first movie deals with birth, the second movie deals with life, the third movie is about death. So when you really think about what a lot of the filmmakers and the actors have said, things come together a lot more. There's a lot of religious elements, which they do get a little heavy-handed a little bit in the third movie, but it's not to a bad degree. There's a lot of philosophical and historical and cultural elements, like references to Alice in Wonderland and such. And to me, with the Wachowskis, with the sequels and the whole trilogy, I appreciate where the trilogy go. And part of me is curious to see what has happened 18 years since the trilogy ended in Revolutions. And from the trailer, we don't know much of what's going on. And they're trying to keep it in a more mysterious route. Also, when it got to the Animatrix, I didn't think much of the Animatrix at first. I always conceived of this one as the fourth film, but in reality, it was more of the Japanese anime. But things came together very cool. In this little anime, they tell you a lot more about how the war between man and machine got started. And there's a lot more things that becomes clear as you watch each individual short in each movie. And just with looking at the behind the scenes stuff, like the historical, philosophical, technological inspirations, or the making of anime, or looking at the behind the scenes about the making of each movie, you find out a lot more things. And doing research, there's a lot of things that you don't know. The only thing I have not done with each of the first three movies is listen to the commentaries with the philosophers or the critics. But from the little snippets I have heard from each DVD, that you can definitely tell what the philosophers' interpretation. And they don't tell you have to like the movie or hate the movie. They just want to give their own personal flavor. But that's why I definitely have my history with The Matrix. And with that being said, I did promise this wasn't going to be a long one, but as I'm recording this on my phone, this is a little bit long. So that was my thoughts on my history with The Matrix series. What did you guys think of this in the comment section down below? Did you enjoy this little introduction preamble talking about my history with the films? And Are you excited to see the rest of this Matrix review series? Be sure to look out very soon, because we will definitely be starting reviews of the films and the Animatrix, and we're gonna start off with the Animatrix first. So definitely, in a lot of ways, you got. So we'll see you guys for that. All my social media links in the description box down below. All my social. If you'd like some money to my Cash App or my Amazon, get something off my Amazon wish list, you can email me or DM me privately. Also, with that being said, all my social media links in the description box down below. Be sure to like this video, comment down this video, share this video, and hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to get notified when videos like this are up. Otherwise, you won't get notifications for either one of those. And I'll see you guys in the next one. And remember, join the Epictasticness, and you guys keep it cool.